Latin America is facing one of its most serious geopolitical shocks in decades. The United States has claimed responsibility for large-scale military strikes inside Venezuela, followed by what Washington describes as the detention of President Nicolás Maduro and his wife and their transfer outside the country. If confirmed, this would mark an unprecedented escalation in US-Venezuela relations and a turning point for the entire region. According to US officials, the operation was carried out in coordination with American law enforcement agencies, targeting what they describe as narco-terrorism networks allegedly led by President Maduro. The US Attorney General has announced that formal indictments have been filed in New York's Southern District, accusing Maduro of drug trafficking conspiracies, cocaine importation, and possession of heavy and destructive weapons. Washington says Maduro will now face criminal prosecution in US courts.
But on the ground, the situation remains tense, volatile, and deeply unclear. In Caracas, residents were jolted awake by multiple explosions echoing through the valley-shaped capital. Witnesses describe homes shaking, power outages spreading across neighborhoods, and military installations coming under attack. Targets reportedly included La Carlota Air Base and Fuerte Tiuna, two of the country's most strategic military sites. Social media footage shows flashes in the night sky, thick smoke, and the sound of low-flying aircraft, though independent verification remains limited. US officials claim the operation involved Delta Force, America's most elite counterterrorism unit, known for covert, high-risk missions. Yet Venezuelan authorities have not confirmed where President Maduro and his wife are being held or whether they are alive.
That uncertainty is now fueling a dangerous political vacuum. If Nicolás Maduro has indeed been removed from power, attention immediately shifts to who controls Venezuela next. Three figures dominate the conversation: Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, Interior Minister Diosdado Cabello, Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino Lopez. All three appeared on state television shortly after the strikes, signaling continuity and resistance. Analysts agree that the armed forces will play a decisive role. Cabello and Padrino command significant military loyalty, while Rodriguez's influence within the ranks is more limited. The question is not just political, it is military.
Beyond Venezuela's borders, the ripple effects are already visible. Colombia has announced the deployment of troops along its 2,000-kilometer border, preparing for potential refugee flows. Cuba has condemned the US action as a criminal act of aggression, calling for an urgent international response. Across the region, governments fear instability, mass displacement, and economic shockwaves, particularly given Venezuela's vast oil reserves. Meanwhile, Venezuela's opposition, led by Maria Corina Machado, sees this moment as a possible opening for long-demanded political change, though whether that change can occur peacefully remains an open question.
The United States argues that this intervention was necessary. Washington maintains that Maduro is the head of an international drug trafficking organization, that the 2024 elections were illegitimate, and that Venezuela poses a security threat. Caracas, however, rejects those claims outright, accusing the US of pursuing regime change to gain control over the world's largest proven oil reserves. This clash of narratives lies at the heart of the crisis.
Historically, comparisons are already being drawn. The closest parallel dates back to 1989, when US forces invaded Panama and arrested military ruler Manuel Noriega. But analysts say the current operation is far riskier, involving a sitting president, a deeply polarized society, and a region already under strain. Unlike Panama, Venezuela's military has not collapsed, and resistance remains possible.
As of now, the exact location of Nicolás Maduro and his wife remains undisclosed. Casualty figures from the strikes have not been independently confirmed. The scale of damage to military and civilian infrastructure is still unclear. US President Donald Trump has announced a press conference promising further details. What is certain is that Latin America has entered a new phase of uncertainty.
This is no longer just a story about Venezuela. It is a test of international law, military power, regional stability, and the limits of intervention. The world is watching, and the next move could reshape the future of an entire continent.